So, Bhavika, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're so pleased to have you here with us today. So, we have a couple of really special topics that we're going to talk through. Sonali, do us the honours of telling us.
So we know that you all struggle with nutrition. Actually, everybody's talking about nutrition right now, but there's so much mixed information out there where you go to a GP and one thing is said, you go to a physiotherapist, another thing is said, you go to a nutritional therapist, and then Susan down the road tells you something else as well. So it's really important that we get a good message and we understand nutrition on a more holistic basis, and we thought that therefore over the course of the next few weeks we'd be bringing you some special vlogs from different professionals, people who really know their stuff, who can help answer some of those buzzing questions that you've got. So Bhavika here is going to introduce herself in a moment.
Okay, so thanks for having me both, Sonali and Chef. It's like, I feel really grateful that you asked me to come on today. So I'm a GP, I work locally in North West London. My background is in lifestyle medicine. I have a love for lifestyle medicine, which I discovered not too long ago when I went on my own personal journey. And I'm also a mum of two, got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Gosh!
So, I mean, that's brought up a whole series of questions in terms of what are we feeding our children and, you know, the nutritional and, you know, mental, physical well-being aspects of raising a child, essentially. And I've also gone back to university this year to study nutritional medicine.
How does she have all this time? I don't understand.
A very supportive husband.
Oh.
Yes, it's not me on my own. It's like, yeah, I'm not a one-man band.
Amazing, amazing. So today we have got a really special vlog for you all where we're going to be discussing nutrition from both a GP perspective and a perspective of a mum. So, wow.
So, we thought we'd make it easy for you guys to understand and also easy for Bhavika to answer all these questions we're going to throw at her.
Yes.
So we'll break it down. So I guess we can start off talking a bit about the GP side of stuff. So obviously you've been a GP for 15 years.
Yeah.
And in that time, I suppose I think it would be fair to say that the understanding of nutrition, would you say it's progressed, or is it still growing?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer. I think the more I learn about nutrition, the more complex it gets. I feel it's actually not become easier, it's actually getting more complicated. But I think people are talking about it more. I feel like it's everywhere at the moment, whether you're picking up your paper, you're switching on the TV, or you're looking at social media, everyone seems to be talking about nutrition. It seems to be a bit of a buzzword. At the moment, if you know what you're looking for, if you're reading the right things, and not everyone is looking at those things. So I still think there's a lot that can be done in that space.
I think you're absolutely right. So it really is very, very important to understand that there is it's sort of an age of over-information, isn't it? There's so many different mediums of information coming your way.
Yes.
And how do you decipher what is good and what isn't, and what is valid and what isn't?
Yes.
It's probably very, and even I guess from your angle, you probably come across stuff sometimes that you're thinking, well, that's absolute garbage based on your expertise and your learnings as a GP.
Yes, so I think the beautiful thing about being a GP is we look at an evidence base, and I'm not saying that's necessarily correct all the time, but it's what we go back to constantly. So we look at trials and we look at data, and we go back to the evidence base constantly to find out what is real and what is not real. So when I pick up my newspaper and I read things like apple juice gives you cancer, and then you look at the actual where they got the information from, and they look at the trial, and actually it's not statistically significant. There weren't enough people in the trial, and actually this is actually a really incorrect statement to make. But unfortunately, that's what people are reading and digesting and believing.
Yeah, absolutely. But with this kind of age of over-information, still, according to the Gov website, 1 in 3 children are obese by the time they leave primary school, or overweight or obese.
Yes.
So with this age of over-information, you sort of expect actually more people to be in better shape, or to be or to have sort of a reduction in obesity and being overweight. So in your opinion, why is that still the case? Why is this such a growing number?
So I'm going to go back to data. if you look at graphs going back from, say, the 1920s to now, you'll find overall a general increase, and I think it's then in the 1970s it starts to spike. And we can go into that a little bit more later on about why that happens. But I think a big component is just the lack of education. It's not being taught, it's not widely available in the correct form. So there's people who have their different opinions, there's lots of conflicting advice on what you should and you shouldn't eat, but I think there's no overall body, or there's not, you know, one place where you can go to find that information or be educated on it.
Yeah. So a lot of people say, well, I'm going to speak to my GP about nutrition because that's the one person I trust. I go to him or her for any ailment, any issue. What do you think that as a GP, yourself or GPs in general could or should be doing more of?
So it wasn't until I went on my own journey I realised that actually I didn't know much about nutrition. I hold my hand up and I say that because it was not taught very well. You didn't get a lot of it at medical school. It just was not in the curriculum when I was at medical school, which isn't actually that long ago if you think about it. And things are changing. So nutritional medicine is slowly being introduced into the curriculum. So in Bristol, they've got things like the NutriTank set up, which, you know, they're now working with medical schools to incorporate nutrition into learning. So I think slowly things are changing. But for people like me, who, when we went to medical school, it just was not available. And now I'm having to learn about it. So hence going back to university, and I think a lot of GPs are in the same boat. They would agree with you that actually when it comes to like what's a carbohydrate, they don't know. They don't feel equipped to be giving that information. So very often when a patient goes to see their GP about food, they're referred to a dietitian. You know, and there's a strict criteria for that. Or they're directed to a website, or they're directed somewhere else because that person may not have the information, the correct information that the patient is looking for, unfortunately.
So if a patient has nutritional questions, or they've got any kind of ailments which require, more of a, what's the term I'm trying to think
holistic approach, I suppose, inclusive of nutrition. Right?
What would you but guide a patient to do?
So I think for me, because I know about nutrition, I'm not saying I know everything, there is a lot to learn. I learn new things every day. I feel confident enough to give advice about nutrition, but that's not the same for all GPs. So they will often refer to a dietitian, you know it's better, or to a government website, or direct them, like signpost them somewhere else to get that information because they don't want to give the wrong information, unfortunately. And it's really difficult in a 10-minute appointment, even for me to give advice to patients. In a 10-minute appointment, it means running over and I will be late, which has a knock-on effect on the rest of the surgery.
Yes.
So we work within time constraints because, that's our appointment system, unfortunately. I can't change that at the moment, but things are slowly progressing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's so fantastic, first of all, that you've acknowledged that, okay, in your time at medical school, there wasn't necessarily a massive focus on nutrition. But then you've gone away and actually thought, no, do you know what, I'm going to get that knowledge from elsewhere. And not all GPs are that way inclined.
True. I don't think I would have unless I had a personal impact myself. And I think when you are personally touched by something and it's had a life-changing effect on you, then you go forward.
I fully agree. I mean, both Snolly and I, Body Plot was born from our own personal experiences and brushes with health scares, etc. And that's what enabled us to move forward and think we're going to get the knowledge and try and help others to avoid situations like that. So often the most beautiful things are born from difficulty. Away from so just going back to the database stuff and also just your general experience within nutrition and your learning so far. Obviously, a patient comes in and has a condition of some sort, and your immediate thing is to go, okay, do you know what, I know there's going to be a benefit to providing them some nutritional guidance.
Yes.
which will then save you having to move them onto a dietitian.
Yes.
And then it's then going through the whole process of being with the dietitian.
Yes.
If you can just signpost them in the right way,
Yes.
like you said. So let's say that happens and a person comes in and says, my child has been classed as clinically obese,
Yes.
as per the stats 90 said, and you want to provide some nutritional guidance. What would be the overall, I guess, general guidance you'd give a mother, for example?
So again, we only have 10 minutes, and by the time the patient comes to your door and leaves the door, and you've got to write up in the patient's notes, let's say it's 8 minutes, so you can give a very broad sort of, they should be eating a well-balanced diet, but to go into that deeper and actually giving them like an actual plan and a meal, it's just something that at the moment it's just not possible.
Yeah.
It would take me an hour,
Absolutely.
if not longer, to go through meals. And it's not just the child's meal, it's you've got to look at the family as a whole, like what is mum cooking?
Yeah.
Or is it dad doing the cooking? Or is it grandma doing the cooking? Or are you eating after school? Or where is the food coming from? There's just so much. There's just so many questions that it's virtually impossible to do in a 10-minute appointment.
Absolutely.
So,
but say suppose there was no 10-minute limit and you could, there are some amazing moms, dads and caregivers watching this blog today. What sort of kind of general advice? So maybe putting aside things like specific issues with a specific child, more generally for people who, patients and patients' caregivers who come to you, what sort of advice would you give to them from a nutrition perspective?
So I think it's not that dissimilar to the advice that you give your adult clients on your social media. So eating a well balanced plate. So looking at carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So those are the three main categories. We very much demonise one over the other, but actually we need all three in relative balance to be healthy. In the past we've demonised certain categories, and that's why we've sort of ended up where we are now. So it's eating a well-balanced diet, eating like a colourful diet, and often people use the term of a rainbow plate, which you've done on on one of your posts I've seen. So eating colourful things, eating things that are not processed, that are whole foods that look like they are when they come out of the ground, essentially. So just really simple tips and tricks that you can add to your child's diet. So taking out processed foods, just taking out microwave meals, taking out things that's highly refined, have been processed, where all the nutrients have actually been taken out, and actually when you look at them, they're doing nothing for you at all. So just, in a couple of minutes, if I had to summarise, that's the information I would take away. Portion sizes, so just reduce the portion size, so eat as you are, a well-balanced diet, but slightly smaller portion sizes, which is really easy to do. Doesn't require any extra time, it's just really simple to do. So doing things like that, like practical, sustainable tips.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people get bogged down by terms like highly processed or highly refined. A lot of people do understand what these terms mean, but some people don't. But I think this is quite an easy way to understand, which is eat something if it looks like the way that it did when it came out of the ground. That's a really, really simple way of understanding sort of how to eat better and how to eat something that's not processed or not refined.
Just briefly going back at the start of the conversation, you mentioned that from the 1920s things started to spike, getting into the 1970s.
Oh yeah, so back in the 1960s it was the American Heart Association that said low-fat diets are the way forward. What we didn't realise at the time was they were demonising fats, including good fats, but it meant low-fat products were being bulked with things like sugar and fructose more specifically. And there's a spike when you look at the curves in America, in the United Kingdom, when you look at the curves in the 1960s or 70s, we just spike. So we're slowly going up, and then there's a massive spike. And we now know that's because of, the encouragement of low-fat diets. So if you've ever picked up something that's low-fat in the supermarket, read the ingredients. It's very, very likely that there will be fructose, some sort of sweetener, something in whatever form it may be to compensate for the taste, for the low-fat taste. And we are now learning more and more what sugar does to our bodies.
But then is there anything wrong with sweeteners?
So sweeteners they're really topical at the moment. The recent guidelines and the evidence-based is that sweeteners aren't worse than sugar. That's the current guidelines on it. And people detoxing off sugar, so refined sugars, often go on to sweeteners. They are artificial, they don't come naturally in the environment, and the ethos I have at home is whole foods, so foods that come naturally. So you do get free sugars and non-free sugars. That's how we, in medical terms, describe sugars. Free sugars, non-free sugars. Free sugars in foods that's like widely available, and the sugar just goes straight into your body. So say fruit juice has free sugar in it. Like sugar that you put in your tea is considered a free sugar, and then you get non-free sugars, and that's bound sugar. So say a piece of apple. When you eat an apple, of course an apple has sugar in it.
Yes.
So when you look at the breakdown of an apple, the macronutrients in it, it's got sugar in it, but that sugar is bound. So it's bound within cell walls, it's got fibre, so when you break it down it's released slowly, rather than sugar that's from fruit juice, which just goes straight as sugar into your system and raises your blood glucose levels. So it's very different the way things are. So I forgot what the question is that you asked me because I got so carried away with free sugars and non-free sugars.
Kath was just saying that, why did it then increase?
It's because of free sugars such as fructose that were in those products, and the refined carbohydrates, so carbohydrates that are so processed that they no longer look like they do when they come out of the ground, is what has caused essentially an obesity crisis in this country.
So what's scary about that is, I think, knowing that in the 1970s, low-fat diets, or like what you mentioned earlier, a particular macronutrient was demonized.
Yes.
That's then been marketed in a certain way to sell a certain type of product. So we're actually at a position right now where everything is protein. Buzzword is protein, right?
And low carb.
And low carb.
Get asked a lot about.
Do you think something similar is happening again?
It's got the potential, and again, the healthcare professionals who are talking about nutrition are saying we need a well-balanced diet. So we need carbohydrates, we need proteins, and we need sugar. We need all of them in the correct portions, coming from the correct food. So in terms of the quality of food, so it's not just the quantity, it's the quality of food, and it's the quality of the carbohydrate, it's the quality of the fat, it's the quality of the protein. So sugar isn't bad, it just depends how you consume it. So carbohydrates aren't bad. Everything has carbohydrate. You pick up a carrot has carbohydrates, but a carrot is really good for you.
Yeah.
It's got lots of micronutrients in it that are really good for you, and you need that for your body. You need carbohydrates for energy.
Yeah.
So to demonize that, then
yeah,
you're
to
missing
then
out on-
demonize it. So you could be. So I think getting that information out correctly is what's really important, and I think that's where things like the media, social media, has a really big role to play in correcting things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people though, however, say, well, yes, carbohydrate gives me energy, but fats are also an energy source.
They are.
So why can't I then just substitute? And by the way, this is not me. These are just questions that, of course, we've absorbed from you all, is that why can't I just substitute fats for carbohydrates?
Because we know from the evidence base from the past that you need all those 3 different groups to make different things in the body. I won't go into it because it gets very scientific, and the terminologies can become really complicated, but we need all 3, and they all provide different functions within the body. So some of it's used for your immune system. So your immune system is what you need to fight infection. Some of it is what you need for your muscles, so for your muscles to grow, such as things like protein. Some of it you need for, like, say, hair and your nails. So you need a balance of all of those to keep your body functioning. It's not black and white. You can just have one and not the other.
Absolutely.
So just going back a little while ago, you mentioned that your household has a sort of whole foods ethos,
Yes.
which is fantastic to hear.
Yes.
How have you applied that? How have you taken that forward and actually found a way to manage it across, from your partner to your kids? Because often we find with a lot of our clients that they'll join our program and they'll learn a lot. And there's also a challenge in trickling that down across your family. So how do you make this a family concept?
Family concept, good question. I think I'm really lucky and married to someone who is very conscious. He's also a GP, also has a love for lifestyle medicine, so knows a lot about nutrition. So it's really nice to be on the same page. So we are both talking the same language, so that's really helpful, and I understand lots of people don't have that. But we also have external influences as well, so you get the extended family and who come in and they're like, oh, here's a bar of chocolate, or here's some, I don't know, selmamra, I'm Gujarati, so we get a lot of Gandhian selmamra filtering into our household and things like that. So it's been a slow process of education for everyone, not just the kids who are still a little bit young to learn about food groups, but it's been a slow education of the extended family, of our friends, and talking about it that's made those changes. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but slowly it is filtering. Things are changing, and we were at Navratri yesterday. People were coming up to me because we'd recently done a workshop in my own community, and they're like, oh, that thing you said? Oh right, okay, I understand now. I read the label, or you said not to eat after this time because of this and this, and I started doing it and actually I feel better. And you're like, oh, you are listening, you have taken something away. And oh, I didn't realise this was bad for my grandchildren because I was taking it. So it's those slow changes, but I think by doing like education, workshops, I think that's the way forward, because a lot of the people who are involved aren't on social media. So say like grandparents, they're not on, some may be, some are very tech savvy, but a lot of them may not have access to things like social media. So it's going into communities and grassroots essentially, where you can have really huge impact in the community, I think. And that's more of the stuff that I'm doing at the moment, is going into local communities and talking to people about food groups, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what they ask you, how much knowledge they have. Like, I was just so shocked. Like, I had like a 78-year-old lady at the workshop, and she was like, what's the role for protein powder? I'm vegetarian. And I was really taken back by it. I was like, you know what protein powder is? Like, that's awesome. And so we talk about protein powder, whether you really need it in that age group. So it's really interesting, and those are questions that I would never get asked unless I went out and spoke to human beings and sat down in workshops, and that's the more of the stuff I think needs to be done. I don't think enough of that stuff is being done. That's
amazing. So communication and just trying to grow awareness and get exposure in sort of communities, especially communities which you think they perhaps need it a little bit more. So people who aren't surrounded by maybe healthcare professionals, or people who just maybe have come from those generations where there are a lot of myth debusting sort of thing. But I remember recently, we met up a while ago, and you mentioned your daughter's birthday party.
Oh gosh.
Yes. And you said that you made her entire birthday party free of refined sugars. Yes. So no ice cream, and you were really careful about the foods that you produced for her party. Now, how did that go down with, your daughter's friends and your daughter herself? A lot of parents worry that, well, if I'm not giving my child chocolate or crisps, will they be sort of segregated from their friends, or will their friends' parents understand? Will we be put in a corner? How do you deal with that?
It's actually fine. I've actually had no problems at all. I joke about it now, because yesterday at Navratri I took some snacks because the food wasn't going to come till much later, and it was just some fruit and some cut up carrots and cucumbers, and then all the toddlers came, and I was joking. I was like, these are vegan, these are nut free, these are dairy free. I'm like ticking all your boxes here, here's the snacks. But they sat and they ate them. They were 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, and they just sat and they ate their food, and they were happy. They were just talking, babbling to each other, and they were happy. And my daughter's birthday party was great. Like, nobody had any issues. People were just really happy to just play and to eat and to socialise essentially, and it was I don't know, I've never had an issue with it. And because she doesn't know what I don't even think she really knows what crisps are because we don't keep them in the house. I'm not saying the crisps are bad, but it's just something I choose not to keep in the house as a thing that she can eat every day. She can have it occasionally as a treat, but there are so many other foods. Our diet is so rich, and we're so lucky. We're living in an era where whole foods is available everywhere. There's like been an explosion of foods, like stores, markets, like you can buy it everywhere. So it's so readily accessible that there's no need to go for the other bits. So, but I think it makes it easier because she's never had it. That I'm now not trying to wean her off it. If that makes sense. So I think it's much.
Does she have exposure with friends?
So she does go to birthday parties where there is lots of sugar available, and my husband and I don't deny that to her. We go and we know the effects of what it does. We see it, but we don't deny it. It's the one-off birthday party, so we let her eat the food, but most of the time we stick to whole foods at home, and then occasionally when she goes out she can eat that food and we don't have an issue with it. But overall it's 80% eating well and 20% of the time eating the treats. I don't even like calling it treats because again you're making it sound like it's a good thing.
Yes.
But eating the other bits that not necessarily whole food. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
I do it. You probably do it.
Yeah.
You eat like things that you enjoy eating. Necessarily that they're not, nutritionally like fulfilling in terms of all the things that you'd usually eat, but you fancy it, so you eat it.
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Even at Body Plot with our clients, we never classify these sorts of foods as treats or cheats, because it should never be something that's classified as something really bad, like a cheat or a sin, or something that's really good, that's a treat, which you reward yourself and you build these often unhealthy psychological connections and kind of relationships with. But on the topic of food as a parent and as a child, a lot of our clients, when they're sort of coming onto their new health journeys and they're starting to eat better and feeling better, a question we often get is, can I feed this to my children?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What is your opinion?
So, Michael Pollan talks a lot about this. He talks a lot about conscious eating, but he talks about these trends of like children's menus. He doesn't understand it because he's like, very often you might have had the term family that eats together, stays together. You cook in one pot, you eat out of the same pot, and there's like a togetherness. There's like an overall togetherness that overlies that. So in fact, my children eat what I eat. We all eat the same thing. There is no separate children's menus, and often when you do look at children's menus, the food that's in it is not the best.
No.
That's what I found. Like, it's nutritionally deficient. So yeah, in our family, the kids eat what we eat, and they eat off the adult menu when we go out to restaurants, and we all eat the same thing because actually, in fact, the food is probably nutritionally better.
Yeah.
On the adult menu.
Yeah.
So we have great proof that it is possible as per Buddhist lifestyle. What would you say for those who are listening to this and thinking, do you know what? I'm now motivated to actually see if I can trickle this across my family and make my family more whole food focused. What are 3 tips you could give them to get started?
So I think what's really important is, number 1, something really simple that you can do. Take your children shopping. Take them to a whole food, take them to grocers. So I'm lucky enough I live across like a grocers, like an old school grocers where all the fruit and vegetable is out displayed. It's beautiful, nothing but fruit and vegetables and herbs. And we've taken our children there since they were born, and they touch the food, they smell the food, they interact with other people, and they see other people eating it straight out of the the big bag. And so I think that's really, really important, because if you involve the child, they are more likely to eat that food. When they see other people eating that food, they are more likely to eat that food. So when you're role modeling that, so say I'm eating an apple, my daughter's more likely to pick up and eat an apple because she's like, Mummy's eating an apple. because children learn from action. They learn, that's how role modeling works. They learn from action rather than what you say to them.
Yes.
So if I say to my daughter, eat an apple, but I'm going to eat, she's watching me eating a bar of chocolate every day, she's not going to eat the apple. Whereas if I'm eating an apple every day, here, have an apple, she'll be like, okay, I'm going to eat an apple. So I think that's something that's really, really easy. I read somewhere, again, I don't have the journal for it or the stats for it, is you have to offer a child the same vegetable or fruit or any food item at least 8 times before you know if they will like the food. So keep offering them the same thing. So carrot sticks, for example, take them every day on your nursery run or your school pickup every day, and one day you don't know, they might just pick up and eat the carrot. They've got to develop the taste buds for it to want to like it, to want to eat it, to want to process it. So just keep doing that. So that's my tip number 2. Tip number 3, I now cook with my daughter. She's 3 and a bit, so there's lots of stuff we can't do yet, but there's lots of stuff we can do, and I involve her in the cooking because she feels as though she's made the food, and so she's really proud of it. So she holds herself responsible for it, and there's accountability for it. She's like, oh, look what I made today.
That's amazing.
So, here, Dad, do you want to eat this? I've made this today. So she then eats it. So this is really simple. It doesn't cost extra money.
Yeah.
It's just simple things that you can do. And the 4th thing, sorry, I know you only said 3 things.
This is a bonus.
It is a 4th thing, which I think Sonali's seen the post. We did a herb garden.
Yes.
At home. And we grew some herbs, again, really, really cheap chips. And then she's so excited, she goes out and she picks them. So say when I'm making a pasta sauce or something, she'll go and she'll be like, basil. And then she actually takes the leaves off herself, then she rips them because she smells them. She's like, do you want to smell them? And then she's like, hey, mommy, basil for you. So simple things like that. And we do the same with herbs. And then she's really excited, can I put the basil in? And then it just involves her a little bit more. So a herb garden, really easy. Sorry, there's 4 things.
No, that's amazing. Such easy 4 tips.
So I know obviously we've talked about the fact that breakfast is debatable, and obviously everyone's opinion is their opinion, of course. But would you say that one of the most important meals of the day obviously is lunch as well? And currently, when you send your child to school, they're either given a set menu or and maybe some schools provide a set menu which is nutritionally positive. Maybe others don't. If you were to send your child to school with lunch from home, what type of things do you think would go into that lunchbox to make it really a nutritionally positive experience for them?
I posted a lunchbox a while ago. It's really, really cool. I bought it because it's got different boxes that are different sizes, and it actually tells you protein, fat. It actually tells you, and it's got pictures of things to put in it to remind you. So it's got a place for things like vegetables, so carrot sticks, cucumber sticks. It's got a portion for dips, and you're like, oh, I can put in a dip, so a bit of hummus into there. And then it's got another little section for fruit, and it's got pictures of fruit in it. So it kind of helps you to remind you to balance that lunchbox out well.
Yeah.
Because we don't always remember that. Sometimes I can fill up something and be like, oh, actually this is not well balanced. And when you're in a rush and you're trying to pack that lunchbox, just having a guide there is really helpful.
Yeah.
So we do things. We use this lunchbox, it's incredible. I can't remember the name of the lunchbox, by the way. I know I'm going to get this question, it's going to come back to me. But so putting in just little things.
Yeah.
So rather than a sandwich, which I actually rarely do in my daughter's lunchbox for summer camp or winter camp, we'll do olives, cut up vegetables, some cut up fruit, maybe some wholemeal crackers. With some fat, all sourdough crackers, with a bit of butter on it, things like that. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, but really simple things.
There's some really fantastic options which everyone can start to apply from now, really.
And if I have one more quick question, if you don't mind, one more quick question is, we've obviously heavily talked about nutrition today.
I know, it's just
which is, and there's so much more that we can actually talk about. But the one thing I just really quickly wanted to touch on, which I know is perhaps not your area of expertise, but it's something that is really, really key in terms of reducing the obesity crisis, is exercise. So what do you feel, just, sort of to summarize, nutrition is obviously key, but getting active and getting moving is also so important. So what would you recommend to patients and patients' caregivers on how to get active and the importance of getting active from your perspective?
I just think moving, it doesn't even have to be exercise, it's just moving. We've eroded that over generations, like simple thing like posting a letter. We send emails so we don't have to walk to the post office to buy some stamps and then walk to the post box. So it's just simple things like that, like online shopping rather than going to the supermarket. There's a few extra steps there to do. We've just eroded that from our day-to-day lives. So just moving and walking and being outdoors is so key. Like what natural sunlight does for you, not just physically but mentally, to your mental state. Helping with things such as, we haven't even talked about like how food affects mental health. I mean, that's a whole different vlog about how food affects your mental health in terms of things like anxiety, depression. We haven't talked about that, but just moving outside, being outdoors. I've got a really busy work life. I've got 2 kids at 3 and 1, and I don't go to the gym. I don't go to the gym, I'll be really honest with you, because I can't fit, that doesn't work for me in my lifestyle, but I walk everywhere. I'm lucky enough where I live, I can walk everywhere, and that's how I move. I get my kids outdoors, just doing a herb garden. You're outside, you're gardening, you're moving, you're being in the environment, you're being in touch with nature.
Yeah. And
that speaks volumes and what it does. And again, I'm gonna stop talking because we're gonna be here for another hour.
I think we've just lined up a few more vlogs in the future.
Most definitely. But if you are a parent or a caregiver, or you're concerned with the lack of activity that your child is receiving, I completely agree with Bhavika that just get them more active by doing simple things like going into the garden and picking out some herbs. Planting a vegetable garden is amazing, but also just taking that time to spend time with them to go to the park. So many children are interacting more with digital devices, and that's sort of their downtime. Whereas actually having your downtime by going to the park and making it a family experience where you all go together. Or, for example, when you're going out to celebrate, why do you have to celebrate with dinner? You could celebrate by going to play golf or going swimming or doing something a little bit more interactive outdoors, and engaging in some activity, which are all really good ways, again, of getting your child more active and yourself more active too.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic. We obviously learned lots and lots about your learnings, your application in daily life, about how you manage with your family, with your patients. Let's learn a little bit more about you as a person. So, favourite food?
Chickpeas.
Oh.
No one says chickpeas. Wow.
They're just really versatile. They're really easy to cook. You can do so much with them.
You can.
And they're really easy to curry.
That's true.
That is true.
Spice and just eat and add things to.
Chickpeas. If you didn't know, now you know. Favourite cuisine?
Indian.
Indian. Reasons? Other than the fact that you're...
apart from that, I'm Indian. Yeah. I just find it so easy to nutritionally balance out Indian food. So there's so much, like dal is so high in protein, and then you can just get a vegetable curry, and that's it, done. I'm done.
What's your biggest win that you've managed to apply in your family in terms of this whole food concept approach?
Consciously eating together. So it's something I didn't talk about, and it's something I should have talked about, is sitting down and eating with your children, or standing with them, or sitting with them whilst you're eating. So consciously eating together and cooking together. So the kitchen being the heart and soul of the family, I think is amazing. Like my children don't eat in front of the TV. It's never been a thing. We sit and we eat together, and they see what they're eating, they're smelling, they're using all their senses. Like eating is a real, it's a sensory experience, because you're looking, you're hearing, you're smelling, it's like sounds, and it's such a wonderful thing to do. So I think that's the best thing that we have as a family that works.
Amazing. Favourite herb
Mint.
from your herb garden?
Mint.
Mint?
Yeah, you can do so much with it.
You can?
You can.
Mint tea.
Mint tea is amazing.
Chai.
Yes.
Which led me on to my next question, which is what is your favourite beverage? What's your beverage that keeps you going through the day at work?
Sparkling water with a slice of lime.
Love it. Love it.
Amazing. Well, I think that's a nice way to summarise. I think we've gotten so much information today from Viveka, so thank you so
No,
much.
thank you for having me.
We've had some fantastic tips, some really important things that you can apply from now on a daily basis. So it's so nice to hear everything that you've experienced in your time, from your career angle, but also from the angle as a mother, which is really important. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. If I said anything incorrect, apologies in advance. I don't have everything with me at the moment, so...
No, you've been
Yeah.
incredible. You've been absolutely incredible. And I know it's really tough to get the right answers sometimes, or as you sort of mentioned and we touched on earlier, is that visiting a GP for 10 minutes is often not enough. So we thought we'd give you this incredible opportunity of having half an hour with such an amazing GP to learn everything about nutrition and how to infiltrate this into your families too.
As always, like, subscribe, comment. Please feel free to ask any questions below. We'll do our best to answer them. But I'm sure we've covered so much today that you have a lot to go away and think about.
And definitely, if you've sort of implemented anything that has been discussed today, let us know. We will also be tagging Viveka's Instagram here, so do have a look and do follow her as well. And of course, let us all know if you've managed to implement all of these helpful and handy tips into your family as well. Well, we hope you have an amazing day, a great week, and make sure you stay active and keep moving.